Today we're going to create the warm versus cool color creature eye. So the first thing you're going to need to get started is that white piece of paper and the eye tracer and a pencil. Now it doesn't matter which way the eye is facing, that's up to you. But once you have your tracer placed in the center of the paper, you're just going to use the pencil to trace out the shape. The next steps depend on which eye you've chosen to do, either the warm color in the eye, cool colors of the scales, or cool colors of the eye and warm colors of the scales. What you can do is follow along with the packet to make sure you're using the right colors in the correct areas. I'm going to choose to demo the warm color eye with the cool color scales just so you can see how it's done. So after you've traced out the eye, the next step is to use a pencil and draw a line that separates the eye from the tear duct. The next thing you're going to do is use the lightest color, in this case yellow, to draw 3 organic shapes, and those are going to be the highlights that we're not going to fill in with any color. So the one at the bottom is a long, curved, almost hot dog shape. One at the upper left-hand corner is a rounded triangular shape. The one in the upper right-hand corner is also a rounded sort of triangular shape. Then I'm going to take that yellow, or your lightest color, and I'm going to fill in everywhere except the highlights, all the way going up, halfway up the eye, skipping over the middle section and the highlights. Next step, I'm going to take the orange oil pastel, and I'm going to color in overlapping the yellow and then going halfway up towards the top of the eye. Once I'm done with orange, I'm going to color in just the top outline of the top of the eye in red. Once I'm done with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow oil pastel and I'm going to overlap and color in on top of where the orange meets the yellow. And what that does is that it blends that orange oil pastel into the yellow to make a yellow orange. So it looks more of a gradient instead of a stark line in between yellow and orange. Once I've blended my warm colors, then I'm gonna go to the pupil of the eye. I'm gonna grab my black oil pastel. I'm gonna draw that line across the top of where that gap is, and then I'm gonna outline the inside of the pupil with black. After I'm done outlining with black, you can either choose to use a Q-tip, or if you wanna just use a white oil pastel to blend on the inside where the black oil pastel meets the middle, just to blend it and bring that highlight in. The next step that you're going to do is use the white oil pastel to overlap where the highlights meet the color, just at the edge. Again, what this does is it blends with the color oil pastel, and it makes it look as though it has a glossy effect. Okay, once you've added the glossy effect with the white oil pastel, the next step is to add the little veins in the eye with your charcoal pencil. And in order to do a vein, you just do a squiggle line that goes towards the center of the pupil, and then small diagonal squiggles that come off of that one. It's almost like you're drawing tree branches that all direct and point towards the center of the eye. Once you have the veins drawn in that charcoal pencil, you're going to then use the charcoal pencil to create a dark outline around the eye and around the tear duct. After you've drawn the outline around the eye, you can take the charcoal pencil and just right underneath the eye, draw a long curved line going parallel to underneath the eye for the lower eyelid. And then for the eyelid on top, you're going to start near the tear duct very close together, curve up, have it be further apart, very wide. And then as it's going along the top of the eye, have it slightly come narrower and closer to the other side of the eye. After you've drawn the two eyelids, you're going to draw just lines that split the eyelids to create different large scale shapes. They're kind of like larger organic shapes, filling the entire space. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a second curved line underneath this lower line, and I'm going to do the same thing this time with wider scales. Once I have the eyelid scales, then I'm going to fill the rest of the space with larger organic shaped scales. Okay, notice it's okay if the scales go off the page. That's totally fine. The next step is you're going to add the shadows that are on the inside of the scales. For this one, it's going to be blue. And what you're doing is just having it go along the side of the scales, the bottom, and up, leaving the top open, kind of like a letter U. Once you have the blue shadows of the scale, then you're going to take the black oil pastel and a white oil pastel, and directly down the middle of the scales, you're just going to shade with the black, meaning you're not pressing down very hard, all the way down, having a vertical sort of line of shading. And then on top of that, you're going to use the white oil pastel to blend on top of the black to create a gray line. And I'm going to do that for every scale. After you've added the shading of gray to the scales, on that under eyelid, what you want to do is you want to use the black oil pastel, just outline the under eyelid with black, then slightly go over it with the white to create that gray shading. And then once you're done with the under eyelid, then what we're going to do is start adding the green to the areas where the blue meets the white, but you're not going to fully cover the white. You're going to leave some of the white showing to show a little bit of highlight. So I'm going to grab my lighter green, and I'm just going to shade overlapping a little bit of the blue into the white, still leaving some of the white along the inside of the scale. And I'm going to do that for each one of my scales. Now that I have the scales done, that under eyelid, I'm going to take that light green and also shade on top where the white is meeting the black, slightly overlapping the black. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to use that pink or tan, it's up to you, and I'm going to fill in the tear duct with the pink or the red or tan, up to you. And now to punch up my scales, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the black oil pastel to draw a very thick outline all around the scales. And if there's any sort of white spaces that haven't been filled in between the scales, you're going to use the black to create a large thick line that it fills in those little in-between white spaces. Now that I've outlined all my scales, I'm going to then just outline my eye and the tear duct and any little area that seems to need a little bit more of a black outline.